large quantities of rat poison in the basement archives of Millbrook County Courthouse. There exists a file that was sealed by court order in 1887. The case number is obscured. The defendant's name has been redacted from public record. Only one investigator-esque private journal survived hidden in his family-esque estate for 3 generations, before being discovered in 1952. What you are about to read is reconstructed from that journal. Medical examiner reports, and testimony from witnesses who spoke under condition of anonymity. The town has since been absorbed into a larger municipality. Its original name no longer appears on any map. This is not a ghost story. This is a study of something far more disturbing. A man who understood that the greatest weapon is not violence. E.T. Spatiens, Millbrook, Pennsylvania. April 1885, Dr. Samuel Thornton first encountered Thomas Whitmore at a church social in the spring of 1885. Thomas was 42 years old, well-dressed, soft-spoken, and unremarkable in every observable way. He worked as a bookkeeper for the local mill. He attended services every Sunday. He had been married to Catherine Whitmore for 17 years. What caught Dr. Thornton's attention that day was not Thomas himself, but something his wife said during a conversation about household medicines. "Thomas is so careful with my health," Catherine mentioned, laughing nervously. "He insists I take my tonic every evening. Says it helps with my constitution." There was something in her voice, not fear exactly, but a kind of careful phrasing, as if she had learned to speak around certain truths. Dr. Thornton made a note in his journal that night. Mrs. Whitmore appears robust, but claims constant fatigue. Husband administers tonic of unknown composition. Query: why not consult physician? Over the following months, Dr. Thornton observed the Whitmores with increasing interest. Thomas never raised his voice. He never showed anger or impatience. When Catherine spoke, he listened with perfect attentiveness, occasionally placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. To any observer, they appeared to be a devoted couple, but Catherine was growing thinner. June 1885, by summer, Catherine's condition had deteriorated noticeably. She complained of persistent stomach pains, dizziness, and a metallic taste in her mouth. Her hair had begun too thin. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Dr. Thornton finally convinced her to visit his office for an examination. Thomas accompanied her, as he always did. "She's been under considerable strain," Thomas explained calmly, holding his wife's hand. "The heat affects her terribly. I've been preparing special meals, easily digestible broths and tonics." Dr. Thornton examined Catherine thoroughly. Her pulse was weak and irregular. Her skin had a grayish pallor. When he pressed on her abdomen, she winced. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'd like to run some additional tests. Have you experienced any she's?" "In excellent hands, Doctor," Thomas interrupted gently. "I've been caring for her day and night, following all the latest medical guidance from the journals I read at the library." There it was again, that polite, impenetrable wall of reasonableness. Dr. Thornton prescribed rest and a change in diet. He privately noted, "Patient presents with symptoms consistent with chronic poisoning. Arsenic. Mercury, husband's medical knowledge concerning. Cannot accuse without evidence. Must observe. July 1885, Mrs. Eleanor Hastings lived next door to the Whitmores. She was a widow, sharp-eyed, and practical. One evening, she appeared at Dr. Thornton's door, visibly disturbed. "I need to speak with you about Catherine Whitmore," she said quietly. "Something is terribly wrong." She explained that she often heard Catherine crying at night, that Thomas had recently installed locks on the outside of their bedroom door, though the grocer had mentioned Thomas purchasing and claiming an infestation. "But doctor, I've been in that house." "There are no rats." Most disturbing. Mrs. Hastings had seen Thomas burning something in the backyard late one night, papers covered in careful handwriting and detailed drawings. I couldn't see clearly, but they looked like medical diagrams, charts tracking something over time. Dr. Thornton felt a chill run down his spine. That night, Dr. Thornton broke into the Whitmore house. He found what he was looking for in Thomas's study, a locked drawer in the desk. Inside were journals, years of team, filled with observations written in the same precise handwriting. But these weren't medical notes. They were experiments. Day 147. Subject shows increased dependency. Reduced dosage slightly to avoid suspicion. Memory lapses becoming more frequent. Day 2. 198. Subject attempted to write letter to sister, intercepted. Increased evening dosage. She must understand that leaving is impossible. Day 891. Perfect control established. Subject believes illness is natural, no longer questions treatment. There were calculations, dosage schedules, observations on how different compounds affected behavior, cognition, physical strength. Thomas had been systematically destroying his wife not to kill her, but to keep her. And there was more. Tucked in the back of one journal was a faded photograph of another woman. On the back, written in neat script, Margaret Whitmore, 1868 to 1875. First wife, died of prolonged illness. Thomas had done this before. Dr. Thornton went to the sheriff with evidence. Thomas was arrested the following morning at his workplace, and cooperated. I understand there's been a misunderstanding, he said pleasantly. I'm happy to clarify everything. Catherine was removed to the hospital. Analysis of the medicines revealed a carefully measured cocktail of arsenic, laudanum, and mercury, compound seats dose, calibrated to weaken without killing, to create dependency without leaving obvious evidence. During interrogation, Thomas never broke. He spoke clearly, rationally, expressing only concern for his wife's well-being. He explained every entry in his journals as medical observations, every purchase as legitimate household need. I loved my wife, Sheriff. Everything I did was to help her. If my methods were unorthodox, it was only because conventional medicine had failed her. The prosecutor called it attempted murder. Thomas's lawyer called it tragic misunderstanding. The trial became a sensation. October 1885, the courtroom was packed. Thomas sat calmly throughout, occasionally taking notes, as if attending a lecture. Catherine testified, but 17 years of poisoning had damaged her memory and credibility. She couldn't recall specific dates or incidents clearly. Thomas's defense attorney presented him as a devoted husband, perhaps overzealous in his care, but not a criminal. The journals, merely the notes of an educated man trying to understand his wife's mysterious illness. Dr. Thornton testified about the poison compounds, but Thomas's lawyer produced receipts showing all purchases were legal and commonly available. The dosages, within ranges found in standard medical texts of the era. My client is guilty only of caring too much, the defense argued. In an age where medical science is primitive and often fails us, can we truly condemn a man for trying to save his wife through study and dedication? The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty of assault. Not guilty of attempted murder. Sentence: 7 years in the state psychiatric hospital. In his private journal, Dr. Thornton wrote, "The law cannot comprehend what Thomas Whitmore represents. He is not insane. He is something worse, completely rational, completely controlled, and completely without conscience." Staunton Asylum, 1885 to 1889. At the asylum, Thomas became a model patient. He was polite, cooperative, and insightful during therapeutic sessions. He spoke openly about his obsessive need to control and his misguided belief he could cure his wife. He assisted in the asylum library. He discussed philosophy with the doctors. He wrote thoughtful letters to Catherine, expressing remorse and hope for reconciliation. Dr. Thornton received regular reports, each one more disturbing than the last. Patient Whitmore has been studying medical texts in the library, shows particular interest in psychology and human behavior. Patient Whitmore has become mentor to younger patients, demonstrates remarkable understanding of their fears and vulnerabilities. Patient Whitmore requests materials on forensic medicine, claims academic interest only. Thomas wasn't being rehabilitated. He was learning, studying, adapting. April 1892, after 7 years, Thomas Whitmore was deemed successfully treated and released on good behavior. Catherine had divorced him during his incarceration. She had moved west to California and remarried. Thomas accepted this news with gracious understanding. "I only want her happiness," he told the release board. Dr. Thornton attended the hearing and objected strenuously. "This man is not cured. He cannot be cured. He has simply learned to perform humanity more convincingly." The board dismissed his concerns. Thomas had demonstrated remorse, insight, and rehabilitation. He had a job waiting at a bookkeeping firm in Philadelphia. He would report monthly to a supervisor. On the day of his release, Thomas stopped by Dr. Thornton's office. "I wanted to thank you, Doctor. Your intervention, though misguided, taught me valuable lessons about restraint and patience, about understanding societal boundaries more clearly. You're going to do this again." Thomas smiled that small, gentle smile. "Do what? Exactly." "I've learned my lesson. I'll be more careful." He paused. I'll be more considerate of others' perceptions." And then he was gone. Epilogue. The pattern Dr. Thornton spent the next 18 years tracking Thomas Whitmore's movements through newspaper archives and correspondence with other physicians. Philadelphia, 1894. Thomas Riem. His new wife, Helen, developed a mysterious degenerative illness. She died in 1897. Natural causes. Thomas inherited her estate. Baltimore, 1899. Thomas, now using the name Thomas Widman, married a wealthy widow. She became an invalid within months. Died in 1902. Natural causes. Chicago, 1905. Thomas White married again. This wife survived barely. She was committed to an asylum in 1908, diagnosed with hysteria and dementia. Thomas claimed heartbreak over her condition and moved west. Each case, Dr. Thornton noted the same pattern. Each time, Thomas had become more careful. No journals left behind. No obvious poisons. Just devoted husbands caring for mysteriously failing wives. In 1910, Dr. Thornton received an unsigned letter postmarked from San Francisco. "Still practicing medicine, doctor. I find the work quite fulfilling. The key, I've learned, is patience. True expertise comes from repetition and careful study. I believe I've finally perfected my technique. With regards, a former patient, Dr. Thornton, died in 1912. His final journal entry read, "Society believes that evil must be loud, violent, chaotic. It does not understand that the most dangerous predators are those who wait, observe, and adapt." Thomas Whitmore is still out there. He will die of old age, surrounded by mourners, having never been caught. And he will have learned more about human vulnerability than any physician or scientist ever will. Because while we study to heal, he studies to control. And unlike USA, he never stops learning. Historical note in when Dr. Thornton's journals were discovered, researchers attempted to track Thomas Whitmore's later life. Records suggest a man matching his description lived in Seattle until 1928, where he worked as a hospital administrator. He died at age 85, peacefully, in his sleep. He never married again after 1910. But 7 women who worked under his supervision at the hospital died of mysterious illnesses between 1915 and 1925. All were ruled natural causes. No investigation was ever opened. The file remains sealed.